have a quorum. So it's technically not a meeting without a quorum, but we have information that we'd like to share. So we are going to have this informational session.
Sounds good.
Great.
All right. So thank you everyone for joining this morning. Appreciate your time, and we felt that this would be a good time, even though it's not an official meeting, to give the committee members who are present, an update on some of the activities that are happening within Access Health, specifically the HR and staffing area. But I would like to start with kind of our typical run through and give you folks an update, on our staffing. So let's first take a quick look at the ethnicity. Which has been fairly stable throughout the last few number of years. As you can see, we have a good number of our employees who make up from minority populations. So it's a very diverse organization. Out of 96, over half of our employees are minorities, mostly in the Hispanic side. We have a number of Asian employees, Black, African American, and a small percentage who are 2 or more races. Marcin, if you could go to the next slide for us, please. Generation. This one continues to evolve, obviously, as we have newer folks transition into the workforce, and we've seen some folks who've either moved along or retired. What's really interesting about this slide here, folks, we're seeing an increase in the younger generation. Our Gen X is slightly shrinking. Millennials make up the majority of our workforce now. Baby boomers, we still have a good number of them, but our Generation Z employees are starting to increase. And if you look here to assist us with this, because it seems I can only remember 1 or 2 generations, I put the date range in here. So our baby boomers from 1946 to 1964. Our Gen Xers are from 1965 to 1980. Millennials 1981 to 1986, and our youngest members are Gen Z from 1997 to 2012. So I know it's been mentioned in the past, but certainly worth mentioning again. There's definitely some diversity here when it comes to our generation, and something we want to keep an eye on, because there's obviously differences in work style and things of that nature versus, let's say, someone who entered the workforce years ago as a baby boomer versus Gen Z, who's probably grown up, not known the world without cell phones or smartphones or some sort of technology. So it's certainly something we watch. We're cognizant of. As a company that relies a lot on technology, we feel we have quite a bit to offer, and we do utilize it. And the pandemic certainly proved that to us. But it is this chart shows it pretty clearly here. The age of the workforce, so to speak, is getting slightly younger as the years go on. Marcin, if you could roll over to the next slide.
Hey, Glenn.
Yes, James.
Very quickly, the managing this multi-generational workforce sometimes could be a beast. Only because the needs are different. The Gen Z and the baby boomers have different needs, different wants. So that makes it very, let's say, exciting to manage such a very diverse workforce. I think it makes us better, it makes us stronger. It keeps our management team energized, because you have to, because everyone you manage, you have to manage them a little differently based on where they're coming from. Makes it very exciting and fun to watch. But it is, like Glenn said, it's something that we do monitor closely on how we manage and entice the population to do their best in terms of performing on behalf of our customers.
Hey, Glenn, just a question.
Sure.
Would this look substantially different, or if you look back 10 years ago when Access Health started?
I think it would, Tom. I may be able to get some of that information. We did switch our human resources information system a few years ago, so I'm not sure how far back it would carry for this statistical information. But let me see if I can gather that information, at least as far back as this system goes, and we can see what the trend is, maybe going back 5 or 6 years, which would be interesting. I have a feeling, you know, James or Susan can chime in. They've been here longer than I have. I think you would probably see a slightly higher percentage of baby boomers and Generation X because they were attempting to stand this up from literally, you know, legislation that was passed. So they had to scramble for some type of experience. Granted, we did have younger workers coming in, but I think it was mostly experienced folks. But I'll take a look into that, Tom. I'll make a note.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, just finishing up my note here. The pay type, folks, has remained fairly static. You know, we do have a higher number of salary workers versus hourly. We see most of our hourly workers in some of the administrative support roles or in our customer service roles. The salary roles, again, the organization, you know, just has a lot of institutional / technical knowledge. In terms of, you know, the expertise we need for, you know, running the plans, keeping the plans going, and our technology. I'll probably say it ahead in a slide or two, but as much as we are a health insurance exchange, we rely very heavily on technology and data. So we need that expertise. So that's why these are more tilted towards the salaried side, because we need those skill sets, the technical abilities and whatnot to keep things moving in the ever-changing environment that is not only Access Health, but insurance exchanges and health insurance. As far as gender goes, this has been fairly consistent too, slightly higher in the female population versus male. But again, folks, most of this information has been fairly consistent over the last few years. So if no questions, Martin, why don't we go to the next slide, please? Okay, I wanted to provide the group here some statistics. This is basically from January through August, what our growth rate was, new employees entering the organization, our turnover rate, which is employees leaving the organization, and our average tenure. So we've seen some good growth since the beginning of the year. If you folks remember, we had a growth and success plan, and part of that was we had some areas of our business, specifically looking over at marketing and our outreach area, health equity and outreach, who converted some of operations that they had with vendors, took those dollar savings and brought those functions in-house where they could be managed, you know, in a closer mindset, and also we had some cost savings with that as well. Our turnover rate was a mix. This is a number as a whole. So this includes voluntary terms, involuntary terms, and also some interns in that. So it's kind of a complex number if you look at it. The interns are just part of it because that's how the system looks at it, but they're just a natural turnover. Our interns aren't with us, you know, on a full-time basis. Typically, we have them either if they're starting for a summer intern, they may join us during the school year as well, but there's just some natural turnover in that. Our average tenure's actually been increasing somewhat. This has been hovering just a little bit under 5 years for the past few quarters or years, but we've seen that bump up to the actual 5-year number. So pretty impressive. This year we started celebrating some 10-year employees. These are the original employees who started when the exchange started. You know, one of our first employees hired is still with us, which is a pretty neat statistic to have. But I believe this year, calendar year at least, we have 3 employees. And looking ahead, obviously, as we get into next year and subsequent years, we have more and more. The exchange just gets on in its tenure of existence, if you will. I wanted to show you folks the Connecticut unemployment rate. This is the statistics they had for July. That was the most recent at the time the slides were produced. I imagine they'll have the August numbers in the next few weeks. But the Connecticut unemployment rate for July was 3.7%. So as the saying goes, when you have about that 4% unemployment rate, it's kind of statistically everyone who can work is working. So we are seeing some pretty high unemployment. When it comes to recruiting, we've had good luck. I feel Access Health has a lot to offer in brand recognition. Being named, one of the best companies to work for is certainly a good feather in our cap. And just the culture we have, the benefits we offer, and kind of the business with a social mission, if you will, where this is more than just a job. I like to say it's more than just writing insurance policies. This is making a difference in people's lives. It's helping people. It's getting people insurance. So that assists with our recruiting. We have a lot of very dedicated people who, for lack of a better term, aren't just looking for a job. They're really looking to make a difference. Was a bit challenging to find some information in terms of a turnover rate for other industries. But if we look at that from a national level, from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, another challenge we have is we're not an apples to apples. We're not really insurance. We're not really government. But looking at insurance and their turnover rates, they were in the high 1%, maybe low 2% rate over the last few months. That's for the insurance industry as a whole. So I'll put a little asterisk aside from that and say that's more of kind of your private sector corporate type of environments. The state didn't have a lot of information on overall turnover, unfortunately. That's why I went with what the unemployment rate is. Another interesting statistic I want to share with you folks, if we look at the Hartford unemployment rate for the July timeframe, that's actually up at 7%, a little bit over 7%. So that's almost double the statewide unemployment rate, and obviously we're located in Hartford, so that's something to look at in terms of jobs and availability and whatnot. But that's for the Hartford County area. But just an interesting statistic I wanted to share with you. But any questions or comments on this slide?
Hey, Glenn, can you talk a little bit? I know we've had some turnover recently that I shared with the board, namely Rob Lundo. Can you talk about what we're doing to address that before Rob
Yes,
at a high level?
for sure. I have, I believe that's up on the next slide, James, if you'd like me to transition over there. Certainly. Marcin, if you could, okay, perfect. James, thank you. Excellent transition for me. I appreciate that. What we've done here, gentlemen, is we've taken a look at some changes we've had in the organization. So as many of you realize or know, thanks to James, Rob Lundo was recruited. He wasn't looking for a position, but had an excellent opportunity come up and decided to make a move that would benefit him and his family. He's going to be going to the Mayo Clinic, which is a very well-renowned health organization, and Rob's got a good skill set. So sad to see Rob go, but excited for him in the future. We also have our associate director of EPMO. She has decided to join the Army Reserves and do some basic training and some technical training as well. So initially, she plans on coming back. It's going to be a 7-month leave. We're cognizant that things can change. It's a big life change for her. We're proud of her for making the sacrifice to serve the country. But at a high level, here's what we've decided to do, because those are two fairly large changes for our organization. James has formed it.
Glenn,
Yes.
if I could just interrupt, excuse my ignorance, but what is EPMO?
Enterprise Project Management Office.
Oh, gotcha. Thank you.
No problem. I apologize, Ted. I sometimes need to back off the acronyms. So thank you.
So Ted, that organization oversees all of our projects, ongoing projects, both internal and external. So that's how we're able to manage costs on those projects and also make sure we achieve our stated goals for each project, whether it's a technical, operational, or sometimes it's a cross-functional project, including us, our carriers, DSS. So we have so many moving parts. We have a team that's dedicated. That's what they do to ensure that everything we do is successful and we don't lose our focus. It's been very helpful in terms of helping us to save money, but also achieve our stated objective for each of the projects on time and on budget.
Thank you, James. So what we've decided to do internally is James formed an ad hoc committee to take a look at this. It's made up of James, our CEO, Daryl Jones, our head of finance, Tony Crow, our chief operating officer, and myself. So what we've done, folks, is take a strategic approach to make adjustments and realignments. And we've come up with a series of changes that are going to take place in the near term and the long term. And at a very high level, Rob is leaving the organization this Friday. So we posted his position internally just this week. And that's going to cross over into next week. And, you know, we feel, folks, that we have a pretty good bench internally, or we do have a good bench internally. And we want to give folks an opportunity to grow, to succeed. One of the challenges of an organization our size of under 100 people is we're pretty limited in the growth that happens without someone leaving the organization or moving up in the organization. You know, kind of the benefit is larger company, there's just more turnover, there's more movement, there's more places to go. So we wanted to give our employees the opportunity to apply for these roles. So we have the Rob's role, which is posted this week. And we'll make selections of folks who to interview next week. And if we find internal candidates who are qualified, potentially have that job filled by next week or early the following week. Marlud, who's leaving the Enterprise Project Management Office, we're going to make an announcement to staff about that next week. Following that announcement, we'll post that job again internally as well. We feel we have a good bench here of folks who would be interested in that. And if that schedule pans out, looking to close that one out, not next week, but the following week or the week after. So we feel we can have those roles filled fairly quickly. We would put together development plans for individuals in those roles, get them the support they need, get them certifications they need, should they need those certifications. We've got good framework in place. We've used them for employees in the past. We've got good bench strength of internal mentors who can work with folks in the organization to help lift them up into new roles. And we have a good bench of external partners for training and coaching that we can utilize as well. So we're definitely not an organization that puts someone in the role, shakes their hand and says, good luck. You know, we've got their back. We work with them. We check in with them regularly. And it's not just one person checking in. It's a team of people checking in. And we feel this really helps develop the person and make them successful. Because if they're successful, we become successful too. And we put a lot of time and energy into it. And, you know, we've seen the results and they've worked out very well. We have a lot of homegrown talent here, people who've grown up with the organization. They know our systems, they know our customers. So the advantage of us of bringing in our talent internally, they really have a head start over individuals who come in externally. So we'll see how this pans out. We have also a plan for the chief operating position. You know, that role is going to be vacated at the end of this fiscal year. And we're going to be looking to fill that with a director of operations. So the COO role will be going away. The director of operations role is a role we had a while ago, but we're looking to reinvigorate that role. We'll be making some adjustments to the job description. And another thing I do want to mention here, gentlemen, is as when you do bring people in internally, the good thing about that is it creates a vacancy behind it. So we have other opportunities to make small adjustments to departments to bring other people up in the organization. But we're really taking a holistic look at this, looking at the organization. How can we be better, faster, more efficient? How can we utilize our talent in a better manner? So while it's a challenge when we have some of our good folks leaving to go elsewhere, which is tough, but also an honor because it shows that, you know, they've grown and developed here. We're taking the opportunity to align and be strategic and look at how to make our organization better and more efficient. James, if you'd like to add anything here, please, I do welcome any thoughts you have.
Oh, no, I think you've captured our intention, our focus.
Okay.
Again, we are looking to align our talents with our needs and the needs of our employees as we move forward. And any realignments we do will be tweaking. Nothing major. We're not going to make any major changes, but we will tweak so that we become more effective, more efficient in what we do and to support connected residents.
Thank you.
Can I make a just quick comment or plug, I guess? So in terms of the Rob Blundo vacancy, you know, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but I would just add my voice to the choir, let's say, in terms of, you know, making sure that that person has the North Star to be the customer experience and the shopping comparison convenience. Rob really had that as his North Star, and I think that's the right focus. And certainly, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but encourage us to keep that as the primary, one of the primary benchmarks as you're evaluating the candidates here.
So Ted, thank you for that input. Just as information, the candidates we are looking. That's why we're starting with internal postings. And Rob certainly has a number of folks on his team who can step up and keep the ball moving in that direction. And Rob has developed a number of his staff to step into that role, keep it moving forward. But we are posting and see what comes up. I appreciate the comment, the input, because that certainly is one of our driving focuses as well. So and that will continue to be a key characteristic that we will be looking for in that role.
Appreciate that insight. Marcin, if you could advance to the next slide, please. Okay, folks, the last item I wanted to discuss today was the salary benchmarking. I had mentioned this in our past HR committee updates when I've sent along the memos to you, but why don't you give a little more context to what the work we've been doing on this. And I think there's some good highlights here that I'd like to accentuate. We worked with an external firm, Cardis Larson. We conducted a request for proposal, went out to the marketplace to bid. Cardis Larson came back. We've worked with them in the past. Good price. They're competitive. They know us. They know our systems. So it was a good match for us. They last did this evaluation in the latter part of 2017. So this was approximately 4 or so years later. I'm proud to report that looking at our organization as a whole, despite that 4.5 year gap, our salaries were within 99.8% of market averages. So if I could kind of pat ourselves on the back here and say that's a really good result. We've worked extremely hard internally to have a process where if we create a new role, we send it out to a third party, which is Cardis Larson, to have them benchmark it and look at the job and make sure that it's correct with the current labor market. We also do the same if we make any major changes to a job description. You know, if there's some minor tweaks or adjustments, often it doesn't warrant it. But if the responsibilities, the requirements, years of experience change, we send it off to Cardis Larson to have it benchmarked and make sure that we're paying the individual the correct market rate. And going through that process has paid off because, as you can see, we did not have to make very many adjustments. And we've already made any adjustments that needed to be made for employees. There were some small bumps in salaries just due to the market shifting. We saw that in some of the areas of, post-pandemic. It was an interesting time for us to do this because the labor market shifted quite a bit during the pandemic. And, you know, as many of you know, despite some industries seeing high unemployment, more of the professional industries saw extremely low unemployment. So we made adjustments to keep us in line and competitive with the market. And we also updated our job grades. The grades, each job has a grade that it falls into with a minimum, a midpoint, and a maximum. And those grades rose up, as you can imagine, with the market since we last did this study. So we've made adjustments to those grades as well. But this is one of those projects that's, it's a good amount of work behind the scenes. A lot of the employees don't see the work that goes into it, whether it's the RFP, analyzing the data, the meetings we have. But part of that is a good thing because we are so in line. It doesn't become a major topic of discussion in the organization because we have to make wholesale salary changes. We keep this process tight, we keep it accurate, and above all, we keep it fair. We want to be fair to our employees. We want to be fair to incoming employees and attracting talent. We want to be competitive. We want to bring in good people. Again, as I mentioned before, we deal with a lot of technology. We have a lot of technology that people can utilize in their job. We have an organization, again, that's more than just, writing policies, making a difference in people's lives, but we also want to be fair with what we compensate. And, we offer a rich benefit package as well. So I feel this is why a lot of times we have good, say luck, but we have good results with recruiting. We have a lot to offer. And again, from the HR perspective, having a highly competitive and a highly accurate pay package helps with that significantly too. So wanted to share this with the committee. Again, it was a big project, but some very solid results on it. And a lot of this certainly was the HR team, but also we worked with the managers and with James and some of the employees to get these adjustments made, and the process went really smoothly. So just kind of want to thank folks who assisted with that. But sharing this with the group here, and Tom or Ted, if you have any questions or comments, I welcome those right now. Sure thing.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate this. And I'm not sure if this is exactly completely related or not, but just going back to, I know that we had discovered a few years ago that we were out of whack in terms of the gender benchmarking. What, if anything, are we doing on a going forward basis to kind of monitor that and make sure we don't slip back down to where we don't want to be?
Absolutely.
So hey, Ted, Glenn, Ted, for me, I've been driving through the organization since I took over fairness and accountability. Right. So one of the first things that I did, as you indicated, Ted, we did that. We looked at the salary structure, and there are a number of employees doing the exact same work. Most of them were women, younger ones, and people of color. For whatever reason, we're making a lot less than the person who sat next to them doing the exact same work. Right? That was addressed immediately. Right? And again, this was not a question the other person had more experience than the other one. No, they all had some level of experience. So obviously, that's something we're all very sensitive to. And my predecessors, I'm not so sure there was any nefarious behavior on their part. I just think that they just weren't monitoring it, and it got away from them. And also, when we first started, some of the employees were making more than the newer ones. I think Glenn indicated earlier, when we first started and we were recruiting, we overpaid a lot of people just to get them in the front door because we were brand new, and was it worth the risk? And obviously, we did not reduce anybody's salary. We brought everybody up to where their colleagues were. So that's something we're going to monitor. As Glenn indicated, the job studies we do periodically is to make sure we are in line. And that's something Glenn and I are very keenly aware of to make sure this doesn't get away from us.
That's great. So, I mean, my question is this something that Cardis Larson is involved in, or what? How are we monitoring that? Are we just monitoring that internally, or is there some more, formal outside process that we should implement? I'm just curious. I know all the good work that went into it, and I supported it at the time, and I support it, of course, now. I'm just interested in what the mechanisms are to monitor that going forward.
Sure. Ted, we've got a number of touch points. Specifically, one of them is our year-end review process. which we look at our merit increases. And before any of those go out, James and I sit down and look at where everyone is in the organization in terms of salary and also a list of gender and ethnicity. Our system prints out all the information we have in the system for what their salary is, what their merit increase is, what their gender and ethnicity is. So James and I take a look at that at the very minimum, at least yearly, to ensure that when these increases happen, A, they're being done fairly, but also B, that the salaries are in line. You know, are we paying any group more? Are we paying any group of people less? And by group, I mean gender or ethnicity, not necessarily the same job or years of experience, but that's how we look at it, Ted. And we really are cognizant of it, not only at that year-end touch point or fiscal year touch point, but also when we do some type of mid-year or off-cycle salary adjustment, if someone's job changes or we hire folks. So there's a lot of touch points where we take a look at this to make sure that these numbers are fair and equitable throughout the organization.
And that's great. And is there any documentation of this for, you know, when we have a leadership change here, hopefully not for many years, but we want to make sure that this monitoring is carried forward. Is there any documentation for the next generation of leadership to refer to and live up to?
Yeah, go ahead, James.
No, Ted. Again, the annual review that we do after all the managers and directors review the employees and give them the recommended salary increases based on performance. I look at the entire organization by race, gender, and age to see are there any obvious. That again, all the black women getting big raises over at the expense of white women. I'm just being very direct and clear about it. And so we look at it holistically. And sometimes if that happens, the next question is, why is this happening? Right? Then, and so in those cases, we make sure that if there are any obvious gaps, they are addressed during the annual review. But again, that's a leadership preference. That's my approach to looking at it holistically to address any type of any perceived inequities and without any justification. So that's documented through the annual review process. So again, if I ever leave, or you guys ever ask me to leave, then my predecessor, my replacement may choose to do something differently, but maybe get the same results. But we will certainly document what we're doing, how we're doing it, and why we're doing it, so that the next generation of leaders will have access to that process. I hope that was helpful, Ted.
I guess the question, just to follow up on Ted's comment, is that review process written down anywhere to say, after everything else is done, we take this review to make sure there's no disparities?
So I know we've done that the last couple since I became CEO. Glenn,
I'm not. I think it's good to do it, but I guess the question is it written down to say, when we do an annual review, we go through 8 criteria, and the last one we do is the disparity review, just to make sure that we have a process that's written down that, like you said, a new CEO may choose to do it differently, but at least they have a starting point indicating what the review has done in the past. But if that's not written down someplace, it leaves it open to be, either forgotten about or not considered.
Sure. No, that's a good point, Tom. Obviously we do have a process, we do have a schedule, and we do have a calendar, and part of that schedule / calendar that's written and saved is CEO review. It wouldn't be a stretch for us to put a little more granularity to that, to what that review encompasses. A look at CEO review and approval, and also part of that is not only a check and a balance, but an equity oversight. So I'd be more than happy to include that in our documentation. So should someone new come into the organization, they would have that process that they could easily follow and understand what it is.
So
Yes.
Tom, we'll be a bit more descriptive. We're going to be very descriptive about what the CEO's review involves.
Yeah. Okay, that'd be good.
Excellent.
Hey, let me ask another question about Cardis's consultation, and that's, do they also consider the value of benefits in part of their analysis?
This is strictly salary, Tom. So what they do is they look at comparable companies and industries, and as mentioned, we're fairly unique. We're not. It's hard to compare us to a straight up nonprofit community organization, and it's also hard to compare us to a straight up publicly traded large insurance carrier. So they balance it out. They do look at us more as operating as a for-profit entity, just who we are and the technical abilities that we have. But this isn't a total compensation evaluation, if you will. This is strictly on the salary and the structure of that salary. I can say that the benefits we have, that fact that we can partner with the state, are extremely generous and rich. I'm not just saying that given my role here. I feel our employees understand that too. These folks work with our plans on the exchange. They understand what's out there in the marketplace now. And as all of the folks on the call are probably very aware of, most of those plans are high deductible plans, which not only include a premium deduction, but also a deductible you have to hit. So you're kind of paying twice, if you will. Where our plans are copay with a very modest premium contribution. So in that regard, Tom, I mean, I apologize, for kind of taking the long way around your question here. They don't evaluate the benefits, but I feel the employees understand the richness of that as part of the compensation package. And when employees do sign up for their benefits through our human resource information system, they do get a nice snapshot of that at the very least on a yearly basis, because it not only shows what their cost is, it shows what Access Health pays. So they see that snapshot for their health insurance benefits, their dental benefits, the company provided vision benefits, and also some of the ancillary lines, which I like to refer to as the value added. They're not paying a premium on the short-term, long-term insurance, the life insurance, those things. So they can see, there's a cost associated with that. So that Tom, is a good snapshot for them. I think in the future, maybe highlighting that a bit more to the employees and just kind of gently reminding them of the benefits we do have. But again, a lot of our folks are working with it every day, whether on the customer service side, whether they're on the tech ops side or plan management side. They see what's out there. They understand the marketplace. So they have some good insight to being pretty understanding of what our benefits offer versus what other employers offer or is available. It's pretty unique. We just don't see a lot of copay plans out there anymore. It's something that kind of unfortunately went away back in the probably the late 90s, early mid 2000s. It's all high deductibles, HSAs, HRAs, which can be okay for some people, but that's kind of another story, I suppose, for another day.
Yeah, I'm thinking that maybe just to do some kind of I'm thinking just a card that compares benefits, because, you know, if an employee is evaluating another job opportunity, it seems like that might be an area that they might not consider completely. And at least if we had, say, 10 areas of benefits, and we could say, I mean, you probably can't do it to say, we're going to compare it with Cigna or Aetna or whatever, but if you could say, we're going to compare it to a generic insurance benefit plan, and if we have copay and others, and we could just put together a little chart that say, make sure you consider, or make sure you appreciate the benefits you're getting in addition to your salary, but not all companies offer these same benefits.
That's a good point, Tom. And what we do have some insight to, I can do some more research into it. You know, is what would be referred to as a total compensation report, which, I mean, everyone knows their salary, but it would break down the benefits. You know, the total cost of what the benefit is for what the employee contribution, what the employer contribution is. And as I mentioned, some of those are zero. You know, they receive a benefit if they should need it in terms of short term and long term. We hope they don't, but it's there if you need it, and there's no cost to that. The other thing too to look at is the value of your time off. You know, that's easily quantified what your rate of pay is. You can see what a day off, you know, technically is. What I've seen out in kind of the marketplace, a very quick back of the napkin of that is your benefits usually account for about a third of your salary. So, you know, 33% of what your salary is goes to benefits. You know, that's your time off, you know, premiums and whatnot. But, you know, Tom, let me do some research. That might be something, you know, down the road we could do. Just kind of thinking off the top of my head here, when we do our merit increases, that might be a nice time to show that information to people. Hey, here's your salary, but here's also the benefits you get by being a access health as well, and here's how to quantify that. You know, it's just, again, a gentle reminder to let people know what they have available and the cost of that too.
Yeah.
We did, Tom and Ted, we did do that several years ago before you were here, Glenn, as you referred to it, a total compensation, pulling in, you know, insurance. I don't know if they included parking in there, you know, retirement benefits, and PTO and time off benefits. So we did do that once in the past. So we certainly, you know, to Glenn's point, could pull it together and do it again, because I think it is important for people to really look at the whole package of everything.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. Thank you, Susan.
Yeah, I mean, as folks on this call probably know, you know, the W-2 changed a little bit the past few years, and now the employer contribution is included there. And a lot of people don't know what the heck that is. You know, I've often thought that employers should just put that in a separate box or something like that on the pay stub so people see it every time, you know, because if it's on the W-2, sometimes people don't see it the way they examine their, you know, paycheck to make sure the paycheck's accurate, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point, Ted. Kind of the out of sight, out of mind. You know, you know it's there, but you're not thinking of it. So yeah, good point. Good point. Okay, any other questions or comments on the salary benchmarking, folks? Okay, this was actually the last slide, so I appreciate you know, the time, Tom and Ted, you spent today. We felt we had some topics that were worth discussing and getting together versus sending along a memo, you know, with the changes in the organization and this large project we wrapped up with the benchmarking. So I really appreciate both of you taking your time today to speak and engage. And you know, it's much appreciated. I know you're both busy, so thank you so very much.
Okay.
Sure. No,
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good
Absolutely.
info. And quick question, Susan, does this get written up with minutes, an informational session like this, or do we not do the minutes? I was just curious.
Yeah, I said Martin is doing the recording, so I think we'll pull the minutes together, but it's not an official meeting, so they're not minutes that we're gonna vote on. Like we have other minutes, maybe we'll just keep them as notes, to report, because it's not a technical meeting.
Sure. Okay, great.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for your time, everybody. Really appreciate it. It was good, good seeing and speaking with you virtually. Thanks all.
Take care. Yeah.
Thanks,
Yep, be
everyone.
well.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.